Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Ask Shelly Show. My name is Shelly Fan. I am your host. I am your emotional intelligence expert coming to you live regarding all things love, sex, and relationships. For those of you who are logged on, let me know who you are, where you are logging in from, and please let me know that you can hear me. Hello, everybody. Hello, Marjorie. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Ask Shelly Show. We are talking all things love, sex, and relationships. I have a surprise guest, but before I go into that, I want to make sure that all those who are tuning in can see and hear me okay. Just let me know that the connection is okay. My guest had some issues logging in today, so I want to make sure that you guys are able to hear very clearly. Hello, Lisa Stone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Ask Shelly Show. Let me position my camera okay here. Please let me know that you guys can hear me okay. Hello, LaShonda. Welcome to this week's Ask Shelly Show. We are talking all things love, sex, and relationships. So for those of you who are logging in, there should be a link in the caption where you're tuning into the caption for this live. There's a link where you can join live to ask your questions. Marjorie says we can hear you. Thank you much again. You are tuning into the Ask Shelly Show. I am your host, Shelly Fan, an emotional intelligence expert, licensed psychotherapist here in Orlando, Florida. I have the privilege of partnering with corporations as an emotional intelligence expert, bringing them to their next level through the provision of psychoeducation. I have the privilege of working with individuals and families and married couples, bringing them to their next level, teaching the skills necessary to live in harmony and prosperity and many different levels, in all aspects of life. And I also have the privilege of being the host of the Ask Shelly Show. Today, we have a surprise guest. If you are a single woman or know a single woman, tag her right now and tell her that she needs to log into the Ask Shelly Show today, because we have an eligible bachelor, well-to-do single man who is going to share his opinion about the 3 things that single women do wrong when they are trying to seal the deal with an eligible bachelor. This man is well-to-do. He is young. He is doing his own thing. He owns properties, and he's going to come on and he's going to share that with us. And then we are going to jump into our questions. I want to say this before we get started. I want to say this. Let me make sure you, okay, good. All right. So right now, the largest growing demographic, okay? The largest growing demographic are singles. In this country, the largest growing demographic are single individuals. So I wanted to take this time to have this eligible bachelor share his perspective on what it is single women are doing wrong or may have done wrong, and hopefully they never will do it once they hear it. It's just his opinion, though. He wanted to make it very clear that it is just his opinion. Now, in order to assure that he can continue to get dates after this live, he is choosing to keep his camera off, which is fine. He's going to keep his camera off, and he's going to share his perspective. Are we ready? Let me know that you're ready. Let me make sure that I have greeted everybody. If you are on, let me know who you are and where you are tuning in from. Guys, we are talking all things love, sex, and relationships. I have to say this, and I said this during my launch on this past Sunday, my launch of Sex Zones, which is a curriculum that helps married couples explore and learn skills to effectively pleasure their spouses and effectively enhance intimacy in their marriages, right? So we launched on this past Sunday. And one of the things that I said, in 1 week from last week's show till today, we received more questions in 1 week regarding love, sex, and relationships than we have on the Ask Shelly Show in an entire year. Having said that, we may not get to every question, but I am going to try my best to get to every question that was sent throughout the week. We will also invite you to join the stage with me. You can keep your cameras off. You don't have to identify yourself. All you have to do is go into the caption for this live, click on the link, and it will allow you to join me live on stage. All right, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready for our eligible bachelor? Hello, Anand Verma. Thank you so much for tuning in. Marjorie says she's ready in Dallas. And LaShonda is tagging one of her friends now. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing to the stage an eligible bachelor, well-to-do, wealthy man who is single. I'll let him tell him a little bit more about himself, and he's just going to share his opinion on some of the main mistakes that single women make when they are trying to seal a deal with eligible bachelors. Keyword eligible. If you are a project as opposed to a prospect, you are not eligible. If you are broken, that means you need to take the time to fix that. So we're talking about an eligible for real bachelor. Ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming our guest today. And you are on the Ask Shelly Show. You can keep your camera off. How are you today? Please let me know that you can hear me okay. I'm having some trouble hearing you. I don't know if my guest can hear you guys. Can you hear him okay? I don't think I'm having a hard time hearing him on this. And let me know if you can hear him. We were having some issues earlier. Okay. Let me know if you guys can hear him. I know I could not. I think he's telling me that he's going to switch microphones, and it's okay. We're going to continue to wait for us to overcome these tech issues. I'm still excited. Can't wait to hear what it is he has to say. For those of you who are on, please let me know whether or not you were able to hear our guests. Let me know whether or not you were able to hear our guests. I want to make sure that it's not just me. Okay, thank you, Marjorie. All right, it's not just me, guests. You got to switch mics or devices. You can switch mics or devices. Let me know when you have successfully done that. Okay, so guys, what do you think he's going to say? What are you anticipating he will say about the main mistakes that single women make when it comes to sealing the deal with an eligible bachelor? Let me know what you think about that. Okay, Lisa says can't hear him. He is trying to come on now. While he does that, I'm going to go ahead and give him a moment to do that. And caller, when you come back in, Martine says hi from Port Charlotte. Thank you so much. Marjorie says too independent. So we're talking about very quickly before we go into questions, we are talking about the main mistakes that single women make when they're trying to seal the deal with an eligible bachelor, when they're trying to get married, where they're trying to be in a committed relationship. And so I invited to the show an eligible bachelor who has some opinions to share for all of you to hear. And so while we wait for him to get his sound issues taken care of on that end, I've asked for you guys to share what you think those mistakes are. Marjorie says too independent. She adds not confident. Confidence is very attractive. So that should not be, it should be non-negotiable that women are working on themselves when it comes to starting the process of trying to attach, trying to commit, trying to be in a relationship. While he does that, I'm going to go ahead and highlight one of the questions that was sent out because I think it talks about what we are ready to hear from our guests. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that question up. This is a series of questions that we have received from last week to this week, and there are many of them. We're going to try our best to get as much in as possible for today's segment. And if we have to do a part 3, I guess we can later. We do have a guest planned for next week. We have a male that will be coming on talking about the trauma that men also experience in relationships. He feels that oftentimes when people hear relationship trauma, they are automatically assuming that it's only women only that experience relationship trauma. And so he'll be coming on to talk about that men hurt too. That's next week's show. Men hurt too. So today we're going to try our best to highlight all of the questions. So from our audience, We have LaShonda Royal says, wanting to move from first date to marriage too fast. Guys, we're talking about the common mistakes that single women make when they are trying to find an eligible bachelor. Okay. And so thank you so much, LaShonda. Wanting to move from first date to marriage too fast. Then Marjorie says, act too independent, but yet not really confident in herself. Lisa says they will not allow him to be the man in the relationship. LaShonda says, have unrealistic expectations. Thank you, thank you, thank you, guys. Keep writing your opinion of what you think women do wrong. I want to highlight this question here. I didn't think that we were going to get to it, but while we wait for our guest to get his sound right, let me make sure that he has it. Let me go back and see. Up, it looks like he is ready. I'm going to go ahead and add him back to the stage. I'm going to go ahead and add him back to the stage. And let me know if you can hear me okay, sir. If your mic is muted, go ahead and unmute your mic. We still cannot hear you. While we still wait for him, it says, Marjorie says, both parties have to be willing to date with intentions. That means they have to be vulnerable. Awesome. Let me get to this question here. Let me get to this question. And it says, Dear Ash Shelley, I am loving the concentration on love, sex, and relationships. I have a confession to make. I am a single person, and while I love learning and listening into your shows, social media posts on love, sermons on love, etc., I am secretly depressed and unhappy with being single. Maybe I am on love overload since Valentine's is right around the corner. So obviously she wrote in before Valentine's, but I don't want to feel so defeated. Do you have some encouragement for me? Let me read it again. Dear Ash Shelley, I am loving the concentration on love, sex, and relationships. I have a confession to make. I am a single person, and while I love learning and listening into your shows, social media posts on love, sermons on love, etc., I am secretly depressed and unhappy with being single. Maybe I am on love overload since Valentine's is right around the corner, but I don't want to feel so defeated. Do you have some encouragement for me? So as we are talking about love, sex, and relationships, I think it's important to highlight the relationship that we have with ourselves, or when we are in a place where we are longing to be in one. So this is a person that's saying, oh, I love all this talk about love, sex, and relationships, but I am secretly depressed with being single. I want to talk about something. Bella DePaulo, okay? I don't want to lose you guys on quoting too many statistics, but number one, understand this, that the fastest growing, I don't want to say it's the fastest, but one of the fastest growing demographics in our country is single men and single women, right? So there is an author by the name of Bella DePaulo, who's a social scientist, who wrote a book that's called Singled Out. And in this book, this person coins the phrase singleism. So singleism is basically a way that we discriminate against singles or have preconceived notions about individuals who are single, such as something wrong with them, right? You know, how many of you who are single or know people who are single have had people ask, what's wrong with you? Why are you single? So this mindset, it highlights this stigma that individuals, that singles have. It is literally a stigma. I have had individuals even ask me those questions, like what is wrong? You know, why are you single? As if something is wrong. Why can't it just be a choice? So I'm saying that to say that right off the bat, this feeling that you have, this non-favorable feeling, is very justified because of the stigma that's attached to being single. But I have to say this, that while singles are one of the highest growing demographics in our country, so is the satisfaction with being single. I want to make sure that I say that as well. So listen to this. It is important that you are able to really assess what your personal thought patterns are when it comes to being single. You have to assess that for yourself. because the more that you assess that, the more that you will be able to really identify the thought patterns that contribute to that depression. Those distorted thought patterns, whether it was learned ideas from people that made you feel like, oh, you're supposed to be married, or you're supposed to have children by this age, or you're supposed to really unpack that. Unpack your mindset and how you arrived at that. Really dig deep into your attitudes toward being single. That's very important. Internal dialogue will shape your entire perspective on reality, and challenge those thought patterns, because it's important to see being single differently. I want to highlight another resource. Let me see if I could pull that up very quickly. Let me see if I can pull up another resource. I just thought about something that I saw earlier. Okay, so in the I was reading the Wall Street Journal. In the Wall Street Journal, it talks about how not only is the satisfaction for individuals growing with being single. I want you to hear this before I go into my direct feedback. Not only is that demographic growing, and like I mentioned before, the satisfaction of those singles are growing as well. There is also, it looks like our guest dropped off again. That's okay. I'm going to keep on going. So not only is the satisfaction for singles growing as well, the studies regarding why they are satisfied are also growing. So in these studies in general, they find that single individuals who are satisfied with being single have strategically spent time with other happy singles. They have a better perception of their singlehood. They use words and language that contribute to a better mindset regarding being single. And so these are things that are important for you to really assess your mindset and what you are allowing to feed your mindset, right? So what's your own internal dialogue? What are those learned ideas that you have to really push back on and challenge in order to give you a better understanding of the opportunity that you have with being single? My feedback to you, ma'am, is this: see being single as an opportunity, okay? See seeing single as an opportunity. Our guest is back. I'm going to try him in just a second. Let me finish my thought, and then we'll try to bring him back on. I encourage you to see your singlehood as an opportunity to live a life of fulfillment, right? And to be very strategic about that. Take this opportunity to address all areas of your wellness. So for example, if your credit score is the same number as your shoe size, you have an opportunity to work on your credit. If you want to be a homeowner, then do that. If you want to lose weight, then do that. If you want to change the way that you eat and you want to eat more healthy, then do that. We have all of us have an opportunity to live a life of fulfillment. But when you concentrate on that and enjoy the process in the meantime, you will then find more value in being single. And I call it the boiling water phenomenon. The boiling water phenomenon. Is it just me, or does the water never boil? Does the water never boil when you're staring at it? Right? Does the water ever boil when you're staring at it? It seems like it never does. But the moment you step away from that pot and look back over your shoulder, then the water is boiling on, full heat, boiling, and it's like, wait a minute, I know I just looked at it and it wasn't boiling, but there's something about taking your eyes off it and redirecting your attention that causes it seems like time just gets accelerated. I see life very much like that sometimes we focus so much on the things that we want and the things that we don't have, that we don't enjoy to the fullest the things that we do. And my business partner, Robin Williams, says it best, that what you attend to will continue. So if you continue to attend to the things that you don't have, you can expect to get more of the same. And so focus on living a life of fulfillment. If you love to travel, then travel. If you love to connect with friends, then do that. Make sure that you are taking the time to create this life of fulfillment for yourself, working on all those areas of wellness that need to be maximized, and watch desired outcomes be attracted to your life. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go back and see if our guest is on. We're going to try this one more time. Hello, guest. Please unmute your line. We just want to make sure that we can hear you now. All right, we can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Those who are, yes, I think so. I can hear you. For those of you who are logged in, if you can hear him, just give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you can hear him. He's about to share his opinion on what women do wrong, the 3 main mistakes that women do wrong when trying to seal the deal with an eligible bachelor. All right, so those of you who are on, can you please confirm that you can hear him okay? I think they can hear you okay. All right, sir. First and foremost, thank you so much for joining the Ask Shelly Show. We have been talking all things love, sex, and relationships last week, and I cannot tell you how many questions have rolled in on the topic. And so I wanted to dig in today about some common mistakes that you think that single women who are trying to find someone like you, what they usually, some of the common mistakes they make. Now, before we go further, I'd like for you to share your age.
Oh, I'm 39.
39. Okay, 39 years old. And are you single?
I am.
Are you single? You are single. Okay. Are you looking to be
yes,
married?
Yes, I am.
So you are single
looking
and
for
you're
a
looking
relationship. Marriage is. Yeah, go for it.
Go ahead. You said you're looking for a relationship. Continue your thought.
Yeah, relationship. If it leads into marriage, I'm not opposed to that at all. But going in with that expectation, kind of, it's not the best way that I've found to go into it.
All right. So you're 39 years old. You are single. You're looking for a relationship, and not necessarily. And that's good. That's good, guys. That he said, I'm not looking for marriage, right? Not necessarily looking, but he is open to a committed relationship, and if it leads to that, he's all game. All right, so go ahead and let us know what those primary mistakes are from single women. We are listening. We are all ears. Let's go.
Well, I'll preface the conversation by saying, in no way am I an authority in anything in the subject matter. It's just I can share my experience and the things that I've dealt with in the past. I would say the first thing that comes to mind is, once you've realized who you're looking for, understand what comes along with the package, and then reassess on whether or not that's something that you want. A lot of people say they want a professional man and they want a person who can provide and things like that. But like all things in life, that comes along with a price. I realize that my time is 90% of the problem at the beginning of a relationship, because most people, unless they are in the industry that I'm in or an industry that's similar, don't understand how much time it takes to get things done. So I would say the first thing is to figure out who you're actually with and assess what their life is like and whether or not that's something that you're looking to get into. Too many people go in with the expectation of whatever this is will change based on my actions or our relationship and things like that. But I don't think that that's the best way about approaching things. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's the first one. And that comes from just, after dating someone for a few days or a few weeks, after you start realizing that, I have to travel here this day, or I have to do this that week, and that starts to cause problems. It's tough. It's just tough because you understand what it takes to actually make it, today. So there's that. I would say the second thing is, again, listen to yourself. There's a lot of noise out there with social media. There's a lot of noise out there with, what's the word I'm looking for? Virtue signaling, people telling you how they think your life is supposed to be. I feel I've had issues to where I was dating a girl that I really liked for about a month and a half. It took a month and a half for me to actually get her to start to think about what she wants in life rather than what her best friend wants for her. Does that make any sense?
Oh my gosh. Now you're preaching, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Like in the process of meeting someone and getting to know someone, it's, I don't know, I'm not the best at articulating this kind of thing, but if you're in it to get to know someone, then you need to be open to getting to know them. It cannot be, every time you see something. I mean, well, you have your own standards. You have your what's the word I'm looking for? Your deal breakers. Set your deal breakers. Stand strong with them, but also realize that you know no one is like you. Uh, One thing I had to realize when I was younger is if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, it's like a friendship almost, where there's things that this person's going to do that you don't like. There's things that you're going to do that this person doesn't like. But that need to be with each other, if it doesn't overcome that, then you're working on shaky ground. I'm not sure if I articulated that very well, but Shelly might do a
You
better job of representing that,
and
repackaging that.
no, you got that. No, keep going, keep going. Guys, listen, those who are listening, and if you have a question for our guest, our surprise guest, eligible bachelor, there is a link in the caption to this live. You can join us. You can keep your camera off. You can change the display name. So feel free to join in on this conversation if you have any direct questions. Now, he is a very busy man. So if you're going to log in and ask questions, you're going to need to do so now. All right. So what I'm hearing, sir, is number one, you're suggesting that women have to be very clear about what they want. So we want a man that can provide. We want him to be able to, put food on the table. We want a man that's ambitious. But then when we get him and we realize, like, oh, he really travels a lot, and oh, he works about 14-hour days, and oh, you got another phone call, and oh, you have to travel again, and oh my, you won't be here for Christmas, that it then changes, right? That we have this like where this rude awakening about the reality behind what it is we thought we wanted. Number two, mute the noise.
Exactly that.
I'm hearing you say mute the noise. What is it that you want? Don't let social media tell you what it is you should want in a relationship or what you should look for. Don't let your best friends, your mama, your papa, your dogs guide you to create this belief system about what you should be expecting in a person, but just allow it to be a blank slate, and not come in with any preconceived notion or learned that are not necessarily your own, to give yourself an opportunity to really connect with what it is you need, want, desire, and expect. Am I hearing you okay with that?
100%, 100%.
And what's that third?
And I
Guys,
guess,
if you want it, go ahead, go ahead.
no, I guess I just had that. I just had it. My apologies. The third one being be yourself. Like, be yourself. One of the things that I have issues with is understanding that every person you meet in the street, you're meeting their representative. I forgot which comedian was saying this, but it was articulated perfectly. But over time, meaning a week, not 2 months, not 6 months later, you got to start becoming comfortable with being yourself around this person, your unapologetic self. Someone earlier stated that one of the things that I might bring up is a person being too confident, or that's not a problem. The problem is not showing enough of yourself early enough to where both people have a fair opportunity to make a decision. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that
So
requires a
that's
whole
that's
lot
the
of
other thing.
confidence. Okay. So do you often find, as an eligible bachelor, and you sound like you find too, sir, but do you find that you often attract women that um, don't act like themselves? And tell me, what are some of the signs when you're like, okay, this is there's an imposter in the room. Like, how are you able to determine that?
Uh, I will talk about my most, well, not my most recent. I would say a few months ago, I was dating a person who obviously had different political views than I did.
Okay.
I noticed it early on. So rather than, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm damn near 40, so I'm not here to waste time. So, bringing up conversation, just, not to have a political conversation because who wants to do that all the time, but understanding the reasoning for why she was, aligned the way she was. Every time we got to a point to where she could feel that we were about to disagree, she would shy away. And it's one of those things to where it's just like, look, I get it. We're both into each other. But this is a bridge we're going to have to cross much sooner than later. If we're both looking to get into a serious relationship, this is not a fling, then this is a bridge that we should cross now, not, 6 months from now. And that caused some friction. Yeah, it caused some friction. And it took, about 2 months for us to realize mutually that although we were both attracted to each other, we weren't the best people for each other.
That makes complete sense. Like, speak your truth, stick by your truth. Don't try to shy away from the difficult conversations because you're trying to bag me, because you're going to bag me in the spirit of inauthenticity. And then later on down the line, it creates more issues. Anytime we suppress a problem, the only thing that you can do is add more intensity to that problem. And so that makes complete sense. If there's
Well, it
anybody on
begins,
that,
it evolves into resentment later on because what you're doing is you're denying yourself for a certain amount of time. Anybody can pull that off for a month. Anybody can pull that off for a few weeks. But after a year or so, you begin to resent that person and you don't even know why. Does that?
of course,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And that's what happens when we suppress issues. This is why we have to get comfortable, ladies and gentlemen, with confrontation and having those courageous conversations. That is so important, that we get comfortable with having courageous conversations. Now, I want to say this. I'm going to quickly wrap up what it is you just those nuggets that you just dropped. And I want you to zone in on something that while you were getting your sound right, I asked our listeners to go in and basically indicate what they thought you were about to say about the three main mistakes that women make. And so I'm going to go through and see if their prophecies were correct. But if there's any one response that you hear that kind of stands out from any others, I'd love for you to say, you know what, before I go, I just want to say that that's a major one. In addition to the three that I said, there's another major one. So I'm going to go through them right
Perfect.
now very quickly. Guys, look what I got. Finally, after a year of not being able to read comments, I got my glasses, but guess what? It makes me terribly nauseous. So if you have any ideas on what it is I need to do to get used to these glasses, please let me know. I absolutely love them though. All right, so here we go. So the comments, sir, that people put into the comments when I said, what do you think he's about to say about those main mistakes that single women make when it comes to trying to seal the deal with eligible bachelors? And this was it. Too independent, not confident, wanting to move from first date to marriage too fast. Let me go and highlight these. Let
Yeah.
me highlight
So
these.
yeah.
Oh,
Know
it
your
sounds like you're
audience.
gonna. It sounds like you're gonna
I
zone in on that one. So,
Yeah, I would say here's the deal with that one. Like all things in life, the answer to that is a little bit more complex. The answer to that is know your audience. I mean, I've heard of couples that have met and within 2 months' time they're talking about marriage. Both people were into it, so it worked out for them. But not many people are like that, especially when you're dealing with a person who's just trying to figure things out. You don't know where they are in their life, so for you to go in and dive in like that says more about you than it does about anything else.
Woo! I'm just going to let that sit very quickly. And you know, because I talk about in a lot of my posts, I talk about your starting point is to get healed. It's your starting point for many different things. You want to save great money, get healed. You want a great man, get healed. You want to be able to have courageous conversations, get healed. And I know it may sound very simple and everybody's healing process is different, but what he is just saying is your desire to go straight to marriage and not necessarily allow yourself to work through those critical developmental stages in says more about you than anything else. That was so good. Derby, let me see, where are we going now? So the next person, we have someone coming. All right. Okay, we have someone writing in right now. We'll go ahead and take that question if we have. The next one was act too independent, but yet not really confident in herself. They will not allow him to be the man in the relationship. Having unrealistic expectations. Both parties have to be willing to date with intentions. That means they have to be vulnerable. They start talking about kids or what they want from the start of dinner.
Huge one. That's a huge one.
You want to go in on
That's
that
a
one?
huge one. So, well, there's three in a row. Well, there were three in a row there. There was someone mentioned emasculation earlier. It's funny.
Oh, I think we lost you.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm actually getting a call right now. Bear with me 1 second.
Okay. These are the things that you have to deal with when you want someone who is ambitious and who is a leader and a president, vice president, whatever of their company. Sometimes we have to be careful what we want and wish for.
Yeah, I'm actually working as we speak. My apologies. But yeah, so someone mentioned emasculation, and it's one of those things where I've only seen emasculation being a problem when, like you said before, heal yourself, right? And then,
I think we're losing you on sound. If you guys are able to hear him, let me know. I don't know if I'm losing him or if he is just, his sound is not coming through on the live. If you can hear him, let me know. That means that it's me and not him. But if you cannot hear him, then we know that we're losing him on sound. And what I'm going to do, we may have to invite him back to get more of his feedback because I want to make sure that we have the time to get into some of these other questions. Okay, he just fell off. All right, guys. So let's summarize some of the things that he was able to download, those nuggets that he was dropping. Let me know if you agree or disagree. So those three were: number one, do you really want that? Okay, he's saying that a lot of women say that this is what they want, but then when they finally get it, they can't really deal with having the ambitious man that they said that they wanted because he's busy or his work-life balance may not be what they expected, right? He also says, listen to yourself, mute the noise around you, what social media says you're supposed to have or want in a relationship, and what social media, your friends and your loved ones say that you should be expecting from him. That mute the noise and really come into contact and connection with what you want and what you desire. And he also talked about meeting the representative, that it has to get to a point where you are comfortable with being unapologetically you. He was talking about emasculation. He has jumped back on. We know that you're busy, so we'll go ahead and let you finish that thought and we'll let you go.
Yeah. So yeah, with the emasculation thing, I was just saying that usually boils down to two issues. It's either the person you're with has confident issues, meaning they have to work on themselves, because it's a two-way street, right? You work on yourself and your partner works on themselves. It doesn't work when one person has all of the emotional intelligence for the relationship, because then you're doing all the heavy lifting. So there's that. The other thing I was going to harp on was someone said, what was the last point that you had said?
Oh boy, listen, you said, if you got me stuck there, sir. You said if two people are not actively working on themselves simultaneously, then one person ends up doing the heavy lifting. Are you the heavy lifter? Oh, that was so good. Okay, I think we dropped off at So we said have unrealistic expectations. Let me go back and highlight them. Hold on. I think I know what you're talking about. We left off at have unrealistic expectations. The next one is both parties have to be willing to date with intentions. That means they have to be vulnerable. And then the one that
Yes.
you stopped, the vulnerable one, go ahead.
Yeah, it was the vulnerable one. Too many people have. One thing that I've learned that helps in the dating process is getting that out the way early. The things you're uncomfortable with, and this is my prerogative, right? Like I'm not saying that anybody else should you know should move forward this way, but I try to put all the nasty out early. Meaning like everything that I used to hide when I was a younger man because I thought that this could be a deal breaker for somebody or that, they might perceive me slightly differently because of it. I put that out there immediately now. And it's one of those things to where it's more appreciated than anything. It's a scary thing to do, but this goes back into the representative thing. And if you're in the game to be real, life's messy. You got to get messy. You know what I mean? So portraying yourself as the perfect person is not always the best way to go about it. I'll say it rarely is.
Put the nasty out first. Is that what you said? I want to make sure that I quoted you
Yes,
correctly.
yes, yes.
Get the nasty out. And listen, what's the fear? What's to lose? The greatest thing that you can lose is an opportunity, a lifetime of pain and hurt because you have to continue to wear this mask for a long-term relationship or just suppress inevitable hurt and pain. Guys, let's put our hands together for our guests. Thank you so much for coming on to the Ask Shelly Show and dropping your priceless opinions. You are it is very much appreciated. I can sense the authenticity in your responses, and I really do appreciate that. And because you don't want to be introduced. If there is a young woman that wants to get to know you, I will be connecting with you to let you know who she is in the event that anybody on here was like, you know what, I really want to meet that eligible bachelor. Thank you so much for joining and being a guest on the Ask Shelly Show.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right. All right, guys, we're going to jump into these questions and we are going to draw it to a close. I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to get to some of the questions that were asked on last week that we did not get to. And while there are many, I will try to do some of the top ones. Some questions came in and they were kind of similar in nature. And so we took that into consideration in choosing what we were going to be highlighting on today. So if you have feedback, please, please, please make sure that you share your feedback in the comment section. Don't forget to let me know who you are and where you are tuning in from. So let's go. Let's see. So we chose, I think it's maybe about 3 or 4 questions. Let's start with this one. Is it okay to be frustrated with my husband? Intimacy lasts on average about 2 minutes, 1 to 2 times out of the week. I remember this question. It came into the private chat. So someone had actually come on to join on stage and left the question in the private chat. And so I'm going to address that now. For those of you who are on, if you want to ask a question live and join the stage, you can go into the caption of this live, click the link, and it'll have you join me right here on stage. You can keep your camera off. You can put whatever you want in the display name, so long as it's not profane or anything of that nature, and you can ask your question live. So here we go. Is it okay to be frustrated with my husband? Intimacy lasts on average about 2 minutes, 1 to 2 times out of the week. So first and foremost, is it okay to be frustrated with my husband? Let me just highlight that the answer is absolutely yes. Your feelings and your emotions are okay. Your feelings and your emotions are natural. They are your emotions. What you do with those emotions is your personal responsibility. Again, that emotion is not the issue. It's what you do with that emotion, which is your personal responsibility. And we have to stop living like animals, just reacting to our emotions and not learning how to responsibly respond to our emotions. Then you go on to say, the writer goes on to say, intimacy lasts on average about 2 minutes, 1 to 2 times out of the week. So there was nothing else in that question. So I am assuming that the 2 minutes and the what you said 1 to 2 times out of the week is something that you are not necessarily happy with. So this is my response to you. We're talking all things love, sex, and relationships. First and foremost, you have to be very clear about what you're dissatisfied with, right? Because when it comes to sex, are you dissatisfied with the frequency? Are you not satisfied with the duration, that 2 minutes? Or are you not satisfied with the intensity? So frequency, duration, intensity, you got to be very clear about what you are not happy with. So you may say, okay, break that down for me. I'm going to give you an example. There may be someone who's okay with the 2 minutes. That may be okay with the duration, right? I'm okay with the 2 minutes so long as I can get it more frequent. There are individuals that want the duration, right? And want more intensity. I mean, there are people that don't want long duration. They don't want an hour of scattered showers, wrath of thunder, and they're okay. And so make sure that you're about what it is you are not happy with. Is it frequency? Is it duration? Or is it intensity? Or it could be two of the three or all three. And if that's the case, then it's important to be open and to be honest with the person that you are with. Let me drop some information right here. The average duration for men in bed, right? The average duration for a man before he finishes is 2 minutes. And for women, it's a little bit closer to 10 minutes. I think it's about 7 to 10 minutes. So that's devastating to hear for women, right? It's devastating to hear, but I want you to understand that the 2 minutes is actually average. I think it's almost 50%. I think it's 47 to 48% of men finish in 2 minutes. And so when you are talking about that frustration, it is a frustration that many women share. And as a result of that, for those who have the confidence and the skill to courageously converse about this, then they can be strategic with their partner to overcome that. But you have to be able to courageously converse about it and talk about how you are feeling. Many women, I think it's up to 65 to 67% of women fake. And so you're faking your fulfillment, and you're never going to get to a place where you can actually address the issue because you're not being honest about it. So this is the thing. My feedback to you is to make sure that you're clear about specifically what you're not happy with, right? Is it frequency? Is it duration? Is it intensity? Make sure that you are talking about it and you're being honest about what it is you are frustrated with. I do recommend to rule out medical issues. It's important that your husband learns to control his breathing. Sometimes we allow our breaths to go, and you're going in for the home run, right? But it's important to take control over that by controlling your breathing, like really making sure that you're taking those really long breaths in and long breaths out to kind of control the excitement so you're not going straight to the finish. So really being able to control your breathing is very, very important. It's also important that your husband is even focusing on quality. Because if he's not focusing on quality and he's just focusing on finishing, then that's an issue. A lot of times when people come in and they're saying that they want more frequent sex or longer sex or whatever it is, what they're saying is they want more quality in their sex. And so it's important to put that in the forefront of your mind. Anytime we're trying to change behavior, it cannot happen outside of a state of awareness. So if you're not being honest with him or drawing this matter to his attention, it will be hard for him to really focus on quality. And so while he's controlling his breathing and focusing on quality and focusing on your pleasure and what you need, it may change things. Also, I recommend changing up positions. Changing up positions can kind of break that momentum to finishing, because you're stopping, changing positions, and then kind of like pressing the restart button in a good way. And so, if your husband can maintain his erection, and if that's an issue, that's a whole nother thing, right? That's a whole nother conversation. But changing positions sometimes will add a little bit more time to that episode that we're talking, that sexual episode. Let's see. And also, I do recommend that you and your husband get counseling, right? If you're finding that this is a continuous issue, and although you are sharing how you feel and what it is you need or want from him, if you feel that it continues to be an issue, then it's important to really get a third party where you can actually talk about how you are feeling, talk about the issues, have someone mediate to really help address those intimate issues that may be bleeding into your sexual life. Okay, because remember what we learned on last time, what we've been talking about is the importance of really focusing and addressing intimacy issues, because great sex is the fruit of intimacy, but not the cause of it. So sometimes we got to go a little bit deeper. It may not even be about the sex. It may not be about gratification or frequency or anything. We could be talking about something that is disconnected in your intimacy, your attachment and connectedness with one another. Thank you so much for your question. The next one: how can I balance my sex drive? Mine is much higher than my husband. That's the next question. How can I balance my sex drive? Mine is much higher than my husband. So first and foremost, again, because the person is not on live, it's I have lots more questions, and that is, what exactly is the issue? You're saying, how do you balance your sex drive, because your sex drive is much higher than your husband's. I need to know, what is the issue with that? What are the circumstances that are birthed out of your sex drive being much higher than his? Because when I know what that issue is, we can go a little bit deeper into my feedback on how to address that. So what exactly is the issue? Now, if you're often feeling sexually frustrated because he cannot meet your sexual needs, right? Then we have something more to work with, because that means that you're constantly frustrated and he's not able to meet those needs. In general, make sure that you are clear about your expectations and needs. I don't know how many times I need to stress that. Like, you're saying it's an issue and you have all this frustration. So what is it? Have you communicated that to him? Have you let him know that you need increased frequency? Have you let him know that you need increased duration? Have you let him know that you need more intensity? It's important that you are communicating these needs. In 2021, as we are working toward the year of intimacy and connectedness, and really enjoying being married to our spouses, we have to learn how to be comfortable with having these courageous conversations. So make sure you are letting him know what it is you need. Let him know what your expectations are. Now, if you can honestly say that your expectations are unrealistic, okay? If you can honestly say that your expectations are unrealistic, then that means that you have to deal with the issue within yourself, right? So if you feel that this high sex drive is a manifestation of something else, such as unresolved trauma or a consistent need for validation and affirmation that you get from sex, or this is the only way that you can get his attention, if those expectations are being birthed out of injury, then yes, I would definitely recommend therapy, so you can address the root of those unrealistic expectations. Because women who use sex for affirmation and validation, it can cause much more injury down the line. So again, when you talk about your sex drive being higher than your husband's, It's not an issue until there are manifestations, like problems coming out of that. And so we have to know exactly what those manifestations are, and exactly what is it about the fact that you have a higher sex drive that's causing those issues. Make sure that you are communicating your needs. Make sure that you are communicating your expectations in an effective and intentional and healthy way. And if you feel that those expectations are unrealistic because of unresolved emotional injury, then I recommend that you get the help that you need to live a more fulfilling life and to address those matters and those circumstances that cause you to have the high sex drive. I also want to say, by the way, if you're really feeling like you need another outlet for that sexual energy, exercise is good. Consistent exercise, daily exercise, at least 3 times a week, when you are burning calories. High cardio or high calorie burning exercise is an amazing way to burn off some of that sexual energy. Thank you for your question. All right, so the next one, and it looks like it will be the last one. We are coming to our hour here. Again, you have one last opportunity to join me live on stage. You can go to the link that is in the caption for this live. Click on it. It'll take you into the broadcast room. You can keep your camera off. You don't have to put any display name, and you can ask me your question live. So our last question, unless someone joins me live, is this. How do you manage a relationship with your spouse who rather run away from conflict than dealing with the situation that invokes the emotions? Let me say that again. It says, how do you manage a relationship with your spouse who rather run away from conflict than dealing with the situation that invokes the emotions? So there are many different ways that we manage conflict. There are many different ways that we manage conflict. For example, we have firecrackers. These are people that are very reactive in their approach to conflict. And so they tend to have no filter. So their approach to conflict can seem a little oppositional and harsh. Then you have individuals who are quiet storms. So they stay pretty quiet for a long period of time. And then one day, years later, they completely blow up and remind you of what you did to offend them 8 years ago. And they do that with such clarity because they've been holding on to that offense, but not saying anything about it for so many years. Then we have individuals who are very passive aggressive. They'll make you feel like they are okay with the intended resolution. They're going to make you feel like everything is okay with the conversation that you guys had about the matter. And behind the shades, behind the stage, behind the curtain, when you're not looking, they are literally just tearing down systems in the workplace, sowing seeds of discord and all other types of very passive aggressive ways to attack you, but still smile in your face, right? And another way that people manage conflict, and there's so many, one of the ways is being a road runner. These are individuals who see confrontation as unsafe. They see conflict as unsafe, and they try to escape and avoid confrontation at all costs. Now, the why is a whole nother show. Why did they arrive at this place where they escape, avoid all types of conflict and not necessarily engage in it? So these are individuals who will escape and avoid conversation, escape and avoid sharing their feelings. They don't find confrontation safe. So it sounds like you, writer, are married to a road runner. And because he or she is a road runner, you guys are not able to address matters or address the heart of the matter because this person escape avoids or doesn't necessarily truly share what it is that's on their heart. So what I would expect, what I think is important, is to really assess whether or not you by chance are guilty of not contributing to this safe environment for your roadrunner spouse to be open in, right? It may not be something you caused. It can be something that was learned way before the marriage, or a trauma, or it could be so many different things. But I'd love for you to assess how you have contributed to that lack of safety. That's important. It's also important to make sure that you are having a very intentional and peaceful and loving conversation where you are able to share how you feel using I statements. You make me feel, you make me, you make me, you make me is very confrontational. Make sure that you are just sharing how you feel. I feel frustrated when we do not converse about our issues. I feel neglected when you shut down and we are not able to discuss our feelings. Those are way different ways. Those are different ways to say, you make me feel, right? So make sure you're using those I statements, that you're being very clear about how you feel. Make sure that you are sharing your expectations. Make sure you're getting the buy-in from the person that you love to meet the expectations, and assure that you are consistently giving the person that you love the opportunity to share their heart. Now, when you are with a road runner, let me say this, Ryder, I hope you're listening because I know this question was from last week. When you are with a road runner who finally gets to a point where they are sharing their heart, if you in any way, shape, or form shut them down, you can guarantee that you have just reinforced their escape avoidance. So if you're finally getting them to speak and you're over talking them, or they finally get to speak and you want to dispute their feelings, or you want to debate what it is they feel, then understand that you have just reinforced their escape avoidance. I don't know how many times in mediations a wife will say, he only speaks to me where we're in this setting. I want to be able to speak like this when we are at home. Or a husband that says the same thing about his wife. Well, when you are here, I'm able to remind you that you're raising your tone. When you are here, I'm able to say, you cut her off 3 times. When we are here, I'm able to say, wife, when he was talking, you literally turned your back on him and your body language said, I'm done. Right? So in these mediated settings, I'm able to highlight the toxic responses or the unproductive responses that two people have with one another. So if you don't feel that you have that skill set, it's important to have a mediator to assist with creating a safe environment for your road running spouse. I hope that was helpful. I do really recommend that you take the time to really dig into the safety component and really hold yourself accountable for when you possibly contributed to that lack of safety in addressing very difficult conversations. You can reach out to me if by any chance you would like to go into this more. Sometimes it's really difficult to give thorough responses, right? Without having all the meat and the potatoes. And so if that is you and you feel that you need a little bit more support, feel free to reach out. info@ashshelley.com. That is also where you can go to submit any questions that you may have as it relates to all things wellness, love, sex, relationships, emotions, what have you. This is what we are here for. Again, you can email info@ashshelley.com. If you would like more information, if you would like a consultation for individual or group support, you can do so again by emailing info@ashshelley.com. If you have questions, you can submit your questions right there, info@ashshelley.com. You can also do so by visiting my website, www.ashshelley.com. You can book me as a speaker there. You can book a consultation there. You can also get consultation for individual or marriage therapy there, or intimacy enhancement coaching, all at www.ashshelley.com. And those of you who are in marriages or seriously dating relationships or single and want to have the skill set needed to be effective in a relationship, be sure to visit bit.ly/victorious marriages and get a copy of my latest book, Struggling to Keep the Vows. I was actually let me make that clear, a contributing author to this book, Struggling to Keep the Vows. And you can get your copy at bit.ly/victorious marriages. I am super excited about this segment, this love, sex, and relationship concentration that we have had over the past couple of weeks. I wrote a curriculum called Sex Zones years ago, and what it does is it helps couples, it helps married couples and seriously dating couples, or those who want this skill set, understanding how to skillfully and effectively meet the sexual, emotional, and intimate needs of the person that they love. And we do so by teaching how to maximize your effectiveness in several zones. We call them the sex zones, and the curriculum is sex zones. We do sex zones in the form of virtual and in-person conferences. We do it in the form of marriage counseling and intimacy enhancement coaches, which is just me and the couple. We do it in the form of support groups, private and confidential support groups, where you could be vulnerable with other couples who may be going through the same thing. We're going to start launching weekend sex zones retreats for married couples and for seriously dating couples as well. It is time for us to be very strategic and intentional about strengthening those connections. Now, while I do celebrate this new trend of increased satisfaction in individuals who are single, I think the fact that that's a growing demographic in our country, I think it says a lot about marriages in our country, right? And so while it's something to be celebrated, I think it's also something to draw our attention to a need that we have in our country to really understand the skill sets, the resilience, those skill deficits that many of us have, that unresolved emotional injury that we're bringing into marriages that would cause it to not be successful. This is why we have these shows and we have these segments. This is why Sex Zones, the curriculum, was birthed. This is why we give you an opportunity to join us live and send your questions to info@AskShelly, to ask those questions. Bring your family and friends, share the live. Let us be intentional about strengthening marriages and strengthening intimacy and heightening sexual gratification in 2021. Thank each and every one of you who are joining this initiative. Thank you for your shares. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your engagement. We will be live again next Tuesday at 12 o'clock, and we are talking about men hurt too. Relationship trauma from a male perspective. You don't want to miss it. I want to thank my guest again for joining me, this eligible bachelor that talked about the things that women mostly do wrong in trying to seal the deal when it comes to bagging. That's what we call it back in the day. When you want to seal the deal with someone that you consider an eligible person for you. He basically shared what those main mistakes were. We talked about sex, frequency, duration, intensity, talked about conflict resolution, talked about celebrating yourself and learning to be happy in your singlehood, and making sure that you are focusing on building a life of fulfillment for yourself. If I didn't share the resource on that, I hope I did. There's a resource that I want to make sure that I share, and I will go into the comments later and add it. And it is a book that is called, and this is it was on the Wall Street, I read it in the Wall Street Journal, and it's called How to Be Single and Happy. It's by Jennifer Tates, who is a clinical psychologist. I have not read the book. It does come highly recommended. So for those of you who are really struggling with your singlehood, just make sure that you're doing what you need to do to change that mindset. And you're not just going to wake up and it's not just going to be changed. It has to be something that you are intentionally doing to change your mindset so that you can live a life of fulfillment and not persecute yourself for being single, but that you can see it as an opportunity to cause yourself to thrive in the many different aspects of life, on the many different levels of wellness that are available to us. That is the end of our show. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, make sure that you are intentional about activating the best version of yourselves. Thank you again for tuning in. See you next week. Blessings.